If you have even the slightest interest in anime, J-rock, or simply spend enough time on the internet, chances are you've heard of this song. That was Unravel, the opening of Tokyo Ghoul. It is one of the most iconic anime songs ever, and has been covered by countless singers over the years, including Ado. However, for a lot of people who aren't die-hard anime or J-rock fans, TK from Ling Tosite Sigure might be an unfamiliar name. Granted, the song was released over a decade ago, but even so, you would expect him to have a certain level of international popularity, considering that he sang one of the most iconic anime songs ever. In this video, I'm going to talk about TK from Ling Tosite Sigure's rise to fame, where he's been since the release of Unravel, and why he seemed to have faded from the spotlight. But first, let me clear up a common confusion about the differences between TK from Ling Tosite Sigure and Ling Tosite Sigure. TK, full name Kitajima Toru, is the guitarist and vocalist of the Japanese rock band Ling Tosite Sigure, often referred to as Sigure. The band was formed in 2002 by TK and the bassist/vocalist Miyoko, and the drummer Pierre Nakano joined in 2004. Since the band's name is a romanization of Japanese, it might seem like a string of random words, but if you translate it properly, it's actually a really poetic way of describing autumn rain falling with force and elegance. TK from Ling Tosite Sigure is the artist name TK uses for his solo project, so if you want to experience Unravel in person, you'd have to go to his solo concert, because Sigure, the band, plays a slightly different style of music. There are two ways to distinguish TK's solo work from Sigure's music. First, even though TK makes the songs for Sigure as well, his solo works tend to be more mellow and often incorporate piano and strings, with Unravel being the prime example. Second, and the easier way, by voice. Both TK and Miyoko are the vocalists of Sigure, so the band actually functions as a duet. After making their major debut under Sony in 2008, Sigure got their first taste of mainstream success in 2010, when their fourth album reached number 1 on Japan's weekly album chart. Then, in 2012, they ventured into the world of anime, releasing Abnormalize as the opening for Psycho-Pass. The song remains till this day the band's most popular release, even though it was somewhat overshadowed by the ending theme of Psycho-Pass, Namae mo nai kaibutsu by Egoist, which I've covered on this channel. Abnormalize also marked a turning point in the band's activity. Between 2005 and 2010, they released 4 albums, but since then, they've only released 3 more, with at least a 5-year gap between each. The reason is the birth of TK from Ling Tosite Sigure. Although TK released his first solo album in 2012, it was after the band's 5th album in 2013 that he began to prioritize his solo career. And in 2014, everything changed with the release of his first single, Unravel, the opening of the highly anticipated anime, Tokyo Ghoul. Unravel was a true revelation in the world of both anime and J-rock. While there are many great anime songs, rarely do they capture the emotional state of the protagonist so vividly through both vocals and instrumentation. The captivating blend of piano, guitar, and strings creates a chaotic yet emotional sound. Combined with TK's distinctive voice, it's as if he condensed the protagonist's inner struggles throughout the show into a single song. Even without its connections with Tokyo Ghoul, Unravel stands out as one of the most unique pieces of music. Throughout anime song history, there are only a handful of songs that you can confidently say are one of a kind. Not simply in the sense of quality, but in the sense of unlike anything else. And Unravel is indisputably one of them. In fact, in 2021, Spotify revealed that Unravel was the most streamed Japanese song globally between 2016 and 2021. Now, although popularity-wise, it may have been overtaken in recent years by Idol, Kickback, and Bling Bang Bang Born, keep in mind that Unravel came out over 10 years ago, and the global anime fanbase has grown exponentially since then. And that brings us to the main purpose of this video, the post-Unravel era. TK actually continued releasing anime songs after making history with Unravel, but none of them ever came close to the song's popularity. The reasons are pretty interesting. First of all, not a knock on him, but it is extremely difficult to create a song of Unravel's caliber, both in quality and popularity. Most singers would die for a magnum opus like that. Second, the anime shows that he provided the theme songs for are all in a rather peculiar situation. Signal is the opening of 91 Days, a pretty decent anime with a dedicated fanbase, but not exactly popular even within that season. Catharsis, TK's second most streamed song, is the opening of the last season of Tokyo Ghoul. But the thing with Tokyo Ghoul is that, while the later seasons are still decently popular, you can't deny that they were a massive drop-off compared to Season 1. Speaking of drop-off, the ending theme of My Hero Academia Season 7, Tagatame, is also performed by TK. And just to clarify, I'm not here to comment on whether the shows are good or not. I'm only here to point out that the later seasons are undeniably nowhere as popular as the early ones, which reflects on the popularity of the songs. Now, TK didn't only provide songs for anime that were withering away, he also provided the ending theme for Chainsaw Man, more specifically Episode 8, which I totally forgot about, because there are 12 of them. From the anime standpoint, having 12 ending themes is luxurious. But from the singer and song standpoint, you only have a window of 90 seconds before people move on to the next episode. And after a dogfight that involves 12 different songs, from 12 very different singers, Chu Tayoseba Ano was the one that came out on top. The most recent anime song TK released is on Apex, the ending theme of Solo Leveling Season 2. But despite the popularity of Solo Leveling Season 2, on Apex was completely overshadowed by the opening, Reawaker by Lisa. So even if we remove music taste from the equation, the series that TK provided songs for didn't exactly put him in the best position to succeed, like Season 1 of Tokyo Ghoul did. And that brings us to the question, why has TK from Ling Tosite Sigure seemingly disappeared from the radar of many international audiences? The short answer is, as I mentioned, anime. Only a handful of Japanese artists are able to truly make it internationally without a series of successful anime tie-ins. But the more in-depth answer is music. Rock is an integral part of Japanese mainstream music, from X-Japan, King Gnu, to official Higadandism and Mrs. Green Apple. J-rock is such a prominent part of the Japanese music scene that the line between J-rock and J-pop is often very blurry. However, since rock isn't as dominant in most Western countries as it was back in the 80s, the line between rock and pop is more defined than ever. That's why I see a lot of rock fans having issues accepting certain Japanese rock bands as authentic rock, or feel the need to clarify that this isn't pop. So before any hardcore rock fans have the urge to define what is what, here's a clip for you.
So, rock.
Well, again, I don't really like to define it.
So, undefinable rock.
You know, again, the term rock, I think, defines it.
I totally get what you mean.
And I agree. Rock, above all else, is an attitude. And yes, it definitely loses some of its soul when being consumed as pop music. But fixating on the technicalities isn't very rock either. Anyway, let's make a Venn diagram of J-rock and J-pop. TK, both solo and part of the band, will be placed far away from the overlap with J-pop, since his music is a lot more complex and experimental. Unravel is an outlier that even non-rock fans enjoy, but a lot of it has to do with Tokyo Ghoul. Without the anime tie-in, most people might never encounter it because it's so far away from pop or even pop adjacent. Even within J-rock, TK's music is considered unique. In other words, not very accessible to the general public, in comparison to bands like official Higadandism. And that's fundamentally why TK from Ling Tosite Sigure kind of disappeared from the limelight. Even if you happen to watch the anime I mentioned, there's a good chance that the songs simply don't connect with you. And for international audiences who are not rock fans, it's unlikely they'll ever come across TK's music the same way many people discover Fujikaze. It's difficult for TK to win a popularity contest against the likes of YOASOBI and Lisa, but that's perfectly fine. Popularity isn't everything in the world of music, especially in rock. TK knows what having a hit song feels like more than anybody else, and definitely has the talent to make another one. But instead, he chose the path of rock. And in the realm of J-rock, TK from Ling Tosite Sigure is an icon. This has been Cushion. See you next time.